I got the opportunity to get to know Chris Getty, and obviously I wanted to talk about Ben Getty and the influence he's had over you. He's been training you since you were 7, and I wanted to read this off so I make sure I don't fumble and say this wrong, so I'm going to read this. He helped guide you to 2 national Silver Glove championships, a 2006 PAL champion, the 2008 U.S. Olympic boxing trials appearance in which you finished 2nd in the 152 weight class. Describe the influence that this man has had over your life.
I mean, Ben Getty's the reason why Keith Thurman is where he is today, you know, especially when it comes to the world of boxing. You know, I mean, he raised me, you know, he prepared me for the elite level of boxing. He believed in me before I believed in myself to be a champion. He constantly told me at the age of 14, you have everything that it takes to be a world champion one day, boy. You just got to stay dedicated. You know, he took me everywhere. He, you know, he spent his own dollar. He was running around trying to get sponsorships and things so that we can go to Colorado Springs, so that we can go to Kansas City for the Ringside World National Championship. You know, so we can go out to the PAL National Championships and just really everything. Not only did he, you know, I was pretty much his #1 fighter. You know, he had me from the age of 7 to when he passed away, and he, you know, he bragged about me a lot, though it didn't really seem like it at the time when he was training me. But there were times where I did know that he really admired the effort that I put in, the skill, the heart, my determination. And it was towards sometime in the beginning of my professional career, we had a local news channel come down and do an interview very similar to this. And Ben had a one-on-one with the lady, and she asked him a simple question. And I feel like I don't even know if I was supposed to hear it or not, but I happened to be like walking by, going to do a cool down on some jump rope, and I heard him say, my favorite thing is right before the fight starts, when I walk down from the ring and simply watch him. That touched me so much. That made me realize you do not have to second guess your skills. You do not have to second guess your talent. The man who helped you be the fighter that you are, his favorite thing to do is to let you be you in the ring. That's when I knew that Keith Thurman was going to be a legitimate threat to the welterweight division.
If you had the opportunity to speak to Ben now, being where you're at today, what would you say to him?
I mean, I technically talk to him whenever I want to, you know. I say what's up, you know, hope you're proud. Tell the Angels to tune in to the Sean Porter fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. There's a song, When I See You Again, with Wes Khalifa. And I cannot listen to that song without crying. It's actually almost impossible. Because there's too many stories. There's too much to tell. Whether he's physically watching or not, whatever's really going on, you know, however you want to look at the greater picture of things. If there's a realm where he's simply waiting, I will enjoy seeing him again.
You could see how much it still pains you to not have him here. It's making me emotional.
I don't know if I can ever.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't know if I really will ever be able to accept it. And part of it is just because of the gratitude. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I'm doing if he didn't give me the love and support that he gave me. And I'm not his son. You know, he cared about boxing. He really enjoyed the sport. And I find it really awkward from a trainer's perspective, just like Dan Birmingham has been dedicated to the sport for so long, how some people simply want to be the one to help the other one achieve. And that's why I give back to the kids. That's why I give back, because one day, you know, I could be a trainer. When I was growing up in boxing and he was telling me you can be champion, you can be $1 million fighter, those are the two things that I held on to. And to me, that's all I ever wanted. Coming from where I come from, I wanted to make $1 million. I wanted to know what it's like to be world champion. I wanted to get out of my situation. I wanted to help my family. But
can you get you some tissue?
I'll be okay. But it took a little bit of time to really realize, you know, and I see it now. They had me on Fox. I was commentating, you know, for a beautiful event, a big event, major event. Danny Garcia winning his first welterweight title, you know. So boxing is more than being champion. Boxing is more than having $1 million. Boxing is a beautiful American sport. And boxing is a career and a career opportunity for myself and people to come after me. You know, to be on the outside commentating is another part of the sport. Like you said, look at what Paulie Malignaggi has been doing. My nutritionist says that, you know, Paulie was always like a B-class fighter, but an A-class commentator, you know, and he was, you know, he was a great fighter, and he understands boxing. He always has, and he had, you know, great skills, you know, but when it came to getting the wins that really mattered, you know, he kind of got defeated. So that's why he classified Paulie in that way. But, you know, Paulie still has a career. He had a tremendous career, and now he has another career, and it's all due to boxing. So boxing is bigger than I ever could imagine as a kid. And I'm just truly grateful to be a part of this great pastime and to do my best to be what matters in the present, and to be one of the most exciting fighters in the sport of boxing today.
So how was it transitioning from, you know, when you lost him? He was the most important person to you in boxing. So how was that transitioning without him?
You know, it was difficult. I remember my first day back in the gym after he passed, and because Getty was already there. He was all, you know, he was there with me that day, and I remember just looking up at the pull-up bar and saying to myself, what the heck are you doing? Like, what's the purpose of really raising your arms and pulling yourself up? And the only reason why I did it was because I knew he wanted to do it. sometimes I feel like my story is similar to Mike Tyson's story on how Mike Tyson lost his training. The big difference between me and Mike Tyson is that I lost my trainer before I ever was world champion. So if I was to give up at that point, then I would have wasted the 13 years of hard work and dedication and the knowledge that he passed down to me. So I simply, no matter how much it sucked, I simply couldn't allow that to be. And I remember being at his funeral and not saying one word. A lot of people spoke on Ben Getty's behalf. A lot of people thought I was going to stand up on the altar and say something deep, say something meaningful. To me, I was frustrated that day. I was mad that day. And I knew that there's nothing to say. Ben Getty wasn't a man of many words anyways. So there was nothing to say. There was just a whole lot of work to do. And that when I accomplished being the champion that he wanted me to be, then, you can't ask for anything more. And with that, I stayed silent for the whole night.
Chris is also a really special guy. If he's any reflection of who Ben was, I can see what was so special about him, because you could feel how much they love you, respect you. They really love you. They become like an adopted family to you.
It's definitely an adopted family.
Yeah. But how was that? I know that Chris was sort of your, like a brother figure to you, becoming that lead figure, filling those shoes of Ben.
He fills the shoes of his father to the best that he can, but he does it in a way to where he is keeping the tradition that his father has kept. So for example, before we would be in actual camp, right, or have something really meaningful to do, but I need to be working, I can't just be doing nothing, Ben would pick me up from my house and take me out to go run. And Ben used to always say, you don't run unless if I see you run. So with that, when Ben passed, I said, Chris, I need you to pick me up for run. I need you to go take me out to run. I need you to do the same thing your father did, drop me off 7 miles from my house so that I can run back and do my 7-mile run. And that's what he did. Chris never tried to coach me, tell me how to throw combinations. But one thing that Chris has, which is an asset, and another thing that I knew in keeping the tradition, was that Ben Getty talked to his son Chris about each and every one of my professional fights, from my pro debut to my second, my third opponent, my fourth opponent, my eighth opponent. So they were always in communication. Chris Getty knows Ben Getty from before I was born. He's seen the way his father worked in the sport of boxing, and he's seen the type of champions that his father worked with in the past. So he knows a lot more about boxing than people will give him credit for, even though he's not going to tell me how to throw my right hand left hook and how to sit down on it and do this. But for 13 years, his father already told me all those things. And his father constantly repeated on how to do it, how to execute it like a broken record, So I really just brought him in to keep the tradition alive of having a Getty in my corner, because it was Ben Getty who made me the champion that I am today. Chris back then would be on BoxRec, constantly looking at the fighters' records, constantly looking at film if there was any, telling his father his opinion. They would bounce ideas off of each other. So I know that he knows the sport very well. My whole team, they know what I bring to the table. They know how much of a devastating puncher I've been since an early age, and now I'm an even more intelligent boxer, but with the punch behind it. So, just like this fight coming up with Sean Porter, right? Luckily, we've already know Team Porter very well, you know. But Chris and Dan and myself, we all know what to expect. But the purpose of having a team, you know, is to collaborate and to bounce these ideas off of one another, you know. And Chris is here sometimes to keep me in check. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and hit up the gym tonight, and I'm gonna do it with some buddies of mine down at the LA Fitness. But Chris and I have a membership at the local YMCA, and when I need to bust out some two-a-days, he'll come back from Tampa so that we can get this workout in. And you know, like I said, it's really just keeping that tradition alive of you don't run unless if I see you run. I mean, I'm 27 years old now, you know. My team trusts me to put in the work that's necessary to be the champion that I am and to retain the title that I hold. But, you know, there's something about tradition. There's something about the formality and the format that has always worked. Like Ben Getty said, you don't fix something until it's broken, you know. And the system that we have, the team that we have, it works, and it's going to continue to work.
So when you were younger, when you guys had the outdoor boxing,
yeah,
you guys didn't have a ring, so he would make the kids gather around and form what would look like a ring, right?
We would do one of two things. We would form a circle, holding hands, you know, and if somebody kind of like got into you, you kind of push them back into the middle of the circle, you know. So there really was no leaning on the ropes when you got, you know, here's the face you're punching, but there's a face back here, you know what I mean? So you kind of like, you could knock somebody into everybody, but we would be prepared and we would throw them back into the fight, okay? And these were very small circles too. You know? I mean, you can only make it with the kids that showed up at the park that day. So outside of that, there was a little playground right there, and underneath the playground, if nobody was really out there doing anything, they had picnic benches, right? And so with the picnic benches, we would create a square, and then you'd have to crawl over the picnic bench and hop into the ring.
Oh, how funny!
Yeah.
How creative!
Yeah. So
he seems like such a fun, lighthearted kind of guy, because I was asking Chris.
He was not lighthearted.
I was going to say, I was asking Chris to go, okay, he's obviously a Vietnam veteran, right? So being from a military background, usually people are, you know, I wouldn't say strict, but they have like procedure. They go by they're very punctual.
Very punctual.
Yes. So is that where you get your punctuality? Because you are quite punctual.
Probably to a degree. I don't know how many things I get in life from Ben Getty. You know, I have a mother, I have a father. I do know my parents very well, and they raised me very well. But, you know, Ben was a mentor that was always by my side. And I guess, you know, he kind of had that take no bullshit mentality.
Yeah.
And so that's why sometimes, you know, when people come at me with certain questions, you know, I just speak the truth. There's nothing to hide. Boxing is a very special industry. Sometimes they try to do things a little differently here and there. Sometimes people are staying away from people for career benefits and things of that nature. But I mean, the sport has always been like that. So to me, I'm not doing anything really special just by simply acknowledging the truth. It is what it is. The fans are watching it. The fans know this. The fans are in the background in the scenes and they're talking about it. So why can't a fighter talk about it? You know, and that's, you know, and then the truth. He used to always say, I don't care who it is, boy. With 8-ounce gloves, you hit them on the chin, they're gonna do a pretty little dance. You know, and we're just talking about how the knees buckle, how people stumble. You know, there's nothing. You know, we were talking earlier about my KO ratio, but how my knockdown ratio is even superior to the KO ratio. And I take those words from Ben Getty into the ring each and every fight. I take multiple. I take like encyclopedia of Ben Getty-ness with me every single time I fight, which is another reason why I bear his name on my trunks, because when the world watched Keith one-time Thurman fight, they're watching a product of Ben Getty, a man who took a child from the age of 7 to the age of 20 when he passed away. That was 13 years that he dedicated his life to me. And he did dedicate his life to me. There was a time where I got out of boxing for 8 months, and I didn't show up to the gym. I didn't say hi. I didn't pass by.
Was this soon after his death?
No, this was just while growing up, because boxing is not a seasonal sport. So you just gotta imagine what it's like for a 7-year-old to stay dedicated to a sport for so long when all his friends are like skateboarding, hanging out after school, doing things. So there was a moment in time where I just wanted to be a kid, and I let boxing go for 8 months. The only reason why it was legitimately 8 months is because in that I joined Clearwater Tornadoes JV varsity team, and I played football for the first time. Happened to fall onto the varsity team. Some kids knew who I was, and they were about to kick me off the team, but certain kids were like, "Coach, that kid's an athlete. Just give him another week or two. Just give him another week or two." You know, I wasn't accustomed to all the formalities of playing league football. You know, every kid plays street football. You know, but league football is another thing.
Yeah.
So. Champ, stop. Yeah, he knows. So, he knows. He knows who the real champ is. He knows who the real champ is. You know. But it was a really nice developing point for my life to be a part of that league at that time, because I got to be a part of a team sport. We won the championship. Our final game was played at the Raymond James Stadium. So I got a lot of stories with that. But in that, I also found out I don't do good in team sports. I cannot rely on somebody else for my victory. And so when I got back into boxing from football, it relit the passion that I had to be a fighter. You know, I already knew that I was going to come back. I just didn't know when I was going to come back. Because football season was a long season, because we kept winning everything, I knew right after football season, you get to go back into boxing. I was 13, just about to be 14 years old when this happened, when I got back into it. And I remember showing up on my first day and just hitting the heavy bag and just hitting the heck out of the heavy bag, you know? I mean, I was really happy to just be back into the gym environment, be back there with Ben, and, you know, I just wanted to let my hands go and just do everything that I already knew how to do. And naturally, playing football, I got a little bigger, and the way I was dropping my right hand and my left hook that day, on that day, as he was taking the gloves off of me, he said, "You know something, boy?" I said, "What's up, coach?" "You're going to start knocking people out." And I didn't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
I was hitting a heavy bag. I didn't know how to respond to that at all. But sure enough, we had a sparring session in St. Pete. And on that day, I got my first knockout and I got my second knockout.
Wow.
Then we went to competition, and in the state tournament, I was able to compete and achieve my first KO victory in an amateur event with 10-ounce gloves and headgears on. So, you know, and the sparring sessions was done with 16-ounce gloves and headgears on. So, like I tell people, man, I've been dropping people for a long time, hurting people for a long time, and, you know, that's why you can expect that KOs for life mentality from your boy one time.